Now, it's not this way with children. Having raised 3 children, I know this. I can tell you this. Children do not come into the world all stooped over from the weight of false humility. They have to have it drilled into them. You take, for example, a 9-year-old boy who gets an A in arithmetic, and he's walking home from school with his grade card in his hand, and he is busting out with pride. Look at that. That's an A. I got an A in old what's-her-name's class. Look at that. Does that look like a B to you? That's an A. She never gives A's. That's an A, baby. I'm going to skip junior high, high school, go straight to college. Look at that. Now you take that same boy 30 years later. He's a civic leader now. He's community-minded. He's been the head of some important project. And they call him up to receive recognition for his work. And what does he do? He stares at the floor, counts his shoelaces, mumbles a few words of thanks for all the forgotten people who made it possible. His grandmother who came over on a covered wagon. Sometimes I just wish people would get up and say, "Thank you, I deserve this." In fact, this thing ought to be made of solid gold, the way I worked on this thing. A man named Edgar Lee Masters from Spoon River, Illinois, wrote a bunch of poems once and called them, as you know, the Spoon River Anthology. Basically, they're all framed on one idea. The people in Spoon River have all died, and now that they're dead, they can tell the truth. One of them is named Constance Hadley, and this is what she said. "You praised my self-sacrifice, Spoon River, for rearing Irene and Mary, orphans of my older sister. And you censured Irene and Mary's contempt of me. I cared for them, it's true enough, but I poisoned all my benefactions to them by constant reminders of their dependence on me." Do you know what she means? It sounds like this. As long as you girls set foot under my table, as long as you sleep under this roof, remember who took you in when your mother died. Where would you be without me? Don't you ever forget that. In other words, every kind word was accompanied by a reminder of the indebtedness of the recipient. Is it any wonder that the people we try to help so often end up hating us for it? When I was a boy growing up in Wichita, Kansas, my father was a preacher and a professor. A double PK. I've become a preacher and a professor. And my home church was a Plymouth Congregational Church, and we had something called the Annual Christmas Project. Inspired by the Jesus who is the reason for the season, and on fire to help the needy and put Christ back in Christmas, a bunch of us teenagers from the youth group would set out to spread love and joy. And we never thought for 1 minute we were being condescending about it. We made baskets for the poor, and then we dared to go into what we called in those days the ghetto to distribute them. And we felt good about it. We really did. In fact, we were proud as peacocks. First, we collected money somehow. I don't remember how we got the money. I suppose a car wash or rummage sale, or we embezzled from our parents. I don't know. But we got the money together. And then we called the Department of Social Services and we asked them matter-of-factly, who are the poor in this community? We need a list of needy families. And then we bought fruit and candy, apples, oranges, bananas, put them in a sack, put the sack in a basket, tied a bow on top, put a little card in there with a hallmark verse about the true meaning of Christmas, and off we went to deliver Christmas joy. We knew how important it was, however, to be humble, because after all, the whole Christmas story is humble. Baby Jesus is humble, the manger, nothing if not humble. So this is how we did it. First, we'd go up on the front porch with the basket, knock on the door, and then when we heard the person who lived in that little shack coming, we'd yell, "Merry Christmas," and then run, jump in the car, and drive away. You see, we didn't really want to make human contact. We wanted to make the delivery and feel good about ourselves. And then afterwards, we'd go to the drugstore, thump our suspenders, get fat on milkshakes, and say, "Aren't we marvelous?" Well, it was my turn to make the delivery, and the neighborhood was not good at all. My mother used to say, "That neighborhood is dark," not knowing what she was saying. Some of these places did not look fit for human habitation, and and clearly could use some Christmas cheer. So I walked up onto this porch. I knocked on the door. Nothing. No response. Knocked again. Nobody. Guess nobody's home. Okay, nobody's home. Kind of enjoyed the thought. Just to be sure, I knocked one more time. And suddenly, his face was there at the door, staring at me through the screen. It was a black face. I hadn't seen it at first in the shadows of the evening, but all of a sudden there he was. Poof. And just like that he said, "Hi." And I said, "Oh, hi." And he said, "What can I do for you?" And I thought to myself, uh-oh, what do I do now? I'm in a conversation with a real live poor person. And then another face appeared. And this face belonged to a woman. She said, "Hi." And I said, "Oh, hi." And then she said, "Won't you come in?" Come in? This is not working out like I planned. But of course, sure, I'll come in. So I went in. They offered me a chair. I sat down. They introduced themselves. "I'm Benjamin Johnson," the man said. "This is my wife, Claire." I thought to myself, how odd they have names. "And your name?" "Well, I'm Robin Myers from Plymouth Church, part of the youth group." "Oh, yes," said Mrs. Johnson. "Big church, beautiful church." "Yeah," I said, "it's pretty big, I guess." And then a little boy appeared from another room, and his mother introduced him. He looked to be about 9 or 10, and he smiled and said, "What's in the basket?" I'd forgotten I was even holding the basket. I'm just holding on to it. And I said, "Oh, here. It's for you. Merry Christmas." And I handed him the basket. He took it, sat down, started unwrapping the paper, got into the sack, took out an apple as if he intended to eat it. I'm thinking to myself, this is not working out like I planned. I was into the delivery, not having a conversation with total strangers. And then this little child did the strangest thing. He got out another apple, and get this, he handed it to me. He gave me some of my own fruit. I'm thinking, stupid kid, doesn't know how charity works. He's giving me my own stuff. But what was I supposed to do after all? I'm supposed to be humble, so I took it, took a bite out of it, and thought to myself, well, here I am sitting in the home of real live poor black people with real names, eating out of my own sack. But I'll never forget what I learned that day. I learned something as powerful as anything I ever learned in my life. It shapes my theology, my politics, my family life, my understanding of God. And it's very simple until you think about it. And here it is. All of us, and I do mean all of us, eat out of the same basket. Not mine and yours, not his and hers, ours, theirs, you people. What's wrong with you people? What do you people want? No. It's what do all of us want to become together. Because however we like to hide it behind slogans of self-made men, manifest destiny, survival of the fittest, the truth is we all eat out of the same basket. We all eat together. We're about to all eat together. But we've got to stop thinking of ourselves as if some are entitled and others are not, and recover the first premise of our faith, imago Dei, made in the image of God. We've got to remember life is but a parenthesis in which we're called to remember where we came from, where we're going, and to whom we belong. Because God made the animals and the fish and the birds of the air, and God said, that's good. But then God made something else, slowly, out of the primal ooze of nothingness. He raised up a creature who could write poetry, paint masterpieces, raise Lazarus with medicine as well as faith. And what God made was you and me. That's who God made. And if we put ourselves down, and not a very original one. When God made you and me and Benjamin and Claire Johnson and every other human being in the world, God said, this is the very best I can do. As the Ephesians letter puts it, you are God's masterpiece. So next time someone does something truly extraordinary, something good and decent, grand and hopeful, just say, well, she's human. Hey, great cake, Grandma. Well, child, I'm human. Nice catch, Mr. Third Baseman. I'm human. Take a look at the person sitting next to you. Go ahead, turn around and look at the people sitting next to you. Do you know what you're looking at? The image of God. And every time you live up to your inheritance, instead of living down to your sickness, you are recreated in the image of God. And the next time you think you can't do something, just remember, hey, I'm human. Original blessing. Not original sin. When I consider the heavens, the work of God's fingers, the moon and the stars, I think, what are persons that you are conscious of them? Women and men and girls and boys just like us. And the answer comes back clear as a bell. This I have made in my own image, only slightly less than myself. And in Genesis, everything God makes is good. And then he made you and me and said, that's very good.